Hello, welcome back. I'm Brian. We have an extreme cold warning in Toronto right now, so it's very, very cold here. Today I thought I would choose some random items from my collection and just talk about them. So there's a number of ways I could do this. If you watch Mazzy's channel, he randomly goes around and grabs things from his collection and then talks about them. That's actually a really good idea, and I may do that in the future, but I thought for today I would use the Discogs random item generator. So if you have Discogs on your phone, when you're looking at your collection, you can shake it and it will show you a random item. I actually don't use the Discogs app on my phone because I don't really like it, but I will use the random item link from my collection on the website. So when I'm using my phone, I just go to the website in the browser on my phone because I don't think the app is actually that good. So I will use the random item here, and I will make a note of 4 things, and I will pause the video to retrieve them. One thing I should say is that I do have CDs in my collection as well as records. So if a random item generates a CD, I'll skip that unless I also have the vinyl. But I suppose it's fair enough to talk about CDs from time to time, so I might do that depending on what it is. So that means to say that if I click the random item, which I'm doing now, I may actually get a CD. So if that happens, I will just try again. So I'm going to make a note of these as they come up. First one is a record. The second one is a CD. This might be harder than it looks. Another CD. 2, so I have 2. Get out of this one. That's actually a record. Just need one more. Sorry if I'm boring you. CD. Try one more. Alright, so I have 4. I'm going to pull them off the shelf and come back and say something about them, so I guess you can talk amongst yourselves for a few minutes. Okay, so I retrieved the 4 items. I'm starting with 4. I don't know why I chose 4, just whatever. It's not 5. And I'll just sort of say something about them and maybe there's memories associated with them. The first one that came up randomly is Roxy Music's Flesh and Blood from 1980. Now, I didn't know about this record in 1980. Too young for that. I mean, a friend of mine exposed me to this record. So in my undergrad, I had a friend in my residence who would often give me things to listen to. A long list of things that changed frequently, some surprising, some not. But he one day came to my room with 2 cassettes. This one, and Avalon. And I think I had heard Roxy Music before then, but maybe not a lot of it. And I actually really, really like both of these records. I think in reading the review on AllMusic some time ago, the reviewer referred to this as disco pop. And I think the claim was it wasn't even as good as a Brian Ferry solo record. So, I do love the early Roxy Music with Brian Eno. I think that was just incredible, and I listened to that, obviously. But that's not to say that I don't like the later Roxy Music. In fact, sometimes when I'm thinking of listening to a Roxy Music record, I'll either choose this one or Avalon from the shelf to listen to. So I do really like these. This has a couple of cover versions on it, in the Midnight Hour and 8 Miles High are cover versions. I think this is really good. Typical Roxy Music styling to have women on the cover, and I think there was a trend to have women that Brian Ferry was dating at the time. I think Jerry Hall's obviously on the cover, so I don't know who these people are, and I don't know much about the cover here at all. This is a Canadian pressing. The lyrics inside. I think I paid $1 for this in a local record store in a bin. But yeah, I like this. I think some people dismiss later Roxy Music because they don't think it's as good as the early stuff. That may well be, but I still enjoy it immensely. The second item that came up is the debut record from Violent Femmes. So this for me is like in my top 20 classic records. This came out in '82. Again, I didn't know it when it came out. I learned about it a couple years later. In my undergrad, this was a critical record for the local bar we used to go to. So there was a bar with a dance floor, and this one track from this was guaranteed to be played every night, and that would be "Blister in the Sun," "Kiss Off," "Add It Up," "Gone Daddy Gone." There's a whole list of songs here that were in heavy rotation in that place. This is sort of like, I guess you'd call it acoustic rock. It has a very sort of a rootsy acoustic feel, but it's a little more frenetic than that. It's kind of has a anxious sort of feeling to it. Even the vocals sound a bit nervous and sometimes paranoid, I think. This is Gordon Gano, who's the singer, and I think he wrote the lyrics, has a really interesting delivery style, and the themes are really teen. So when I think of this record, I think of teen or early adult years. You know, there's things about girls and that kind of thing. I did see this band at an outdoor festival. I can't remember the year. I have to say, though, that I was a little disappointed in the performance. They certainly played the songs, but they ran through them very, 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 very quickly. They came out, took their places, did their set, and walked off. And I don't think any band member said anything to the audience. I could be wrong about that. So there was a competent performance. It sounded good. Just wasn't very engaging. I do like the cover. I think that's an interesting cover. I like that. And I think they're still recording music recently. So an interesting band and sort of a critical piece of my early university days. And I think this is a classic. I'm sure that both of these records, I know this one I think had a recent, I don't know what I mean by recent, but had a repressing. This is something you don't see very often, though. If I go to records, I rarely see original Canadian pressings of this in bins. They're very hard to find, and when I do see them, they're quite expensive. So I've had this for quite a long time. Third item that came up is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath from Black Sabbath. Now, I really, really like the first 6 Black Sabbath records. After that, I'm sort of, to be honest, once Ozzy Osbourne left, I think was he there for 7 records, I think? Once he left, I don't really know anything, and that's probably for 2 reasons. I maybe lost interest, but secondly, I was listening to other things like Violent Femmes and that kind of thing. So I didn't really follow that. But I will say that I have some older siblings, 2 older brothers, and an older sister. My eldest brother is 10 years older than me, so his musical reference points were wildly different from mine, what mine came to be. But in the early days, I listened to a lot of the music that he was listening to, which was Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Steppenwolf, a lot of classic rock music. And that sort of played through to my sister as well, who's 4 years older than me. She listened to a lot of that music as well. Led Zeppelin was a band that she really liked, and so I was sort of spent a lot of time listening to that kind of music, and then I went in other directions. But for me, the 2 bands that really stood out from all those things, the Alice Coopers, all that thing, the 2 things that really stood out were Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. So I do have a continuing love for this band. This is from 1974, again a Canadian pressing, and in Toronto it's really difficult to find original pressings of Black Sabbath records. I rarely see them, and when I do see them, they're quite pricey. So I don't know when I got this. It's in pretty good shape. Doesn't really have any liner notes, but it has like a insert with, or a sleeve with advertisements for other records. So I think that's pretty good. I don't know if it's my favorite Black Sabbath record, but it's definitely up there. As I say, the first 6 records for me are kind of indispensable. The last thing that came up as Morrissey, Years of Refusal. So when I got to university, in one of the first things I heard was the Smiths. The first record for me was sort of an eye-opener. There was a lot of music in my undergrad that was an eye-opener because I'd been listening to a lot of classic rock, but when I heard that, I was kind of stunned. I didn't know people made music like that. It may not even seem that revolutionary now, but at the time it just seemed really different to me, and it was only played on one radio station that I knew of, an alternative radio station. So the Smiths were like a really big part of my my undergrad and that sort of formative years. And I followed them right to the end, and continued with Morrissey for a while. Although I will say that his first record, his first solo record, Viva Hate, I think is on par with later Smith's work. Not maybe The Queen is Dead, but I think it's as good, maybe better than Strange Ways, Here We Come. I think that was a very good record. I sort of was disappointed with Kill Uncle, and it's been uneven since then, but I do sort of try to follow along with the stuff that he's releasing. And this one, I would say, is a pretty good later record. It starts off really strongly. If someone is squeezing my skull, you know, some good songs on here. I'm throwing my arms around Paris. So I really like this record. I think it's a pretty strong release. The inner sleeve. You know, I couldn't even tell you who these people are. I never really followed his band closely. Of course, with the Smiths, I knew who everyone was. So in 1991, I did see Morrissey in Toronto at the Kingswood Music Theatre. He mentions that show in his autobiography. I'm just remembering now. I read his autobiography, and he actually mentions that show. I wasn't one of the people who was ejected for rushing the stage and giving him flowers. That wasn't my style. Now, of course, Morrissey seems to be now a divisive kind of character, and you know, I don't pay too much attention to some of the things he says, but it's hard to avoid it when it makes it into the press. So, you know, a couple of days ago, there was his open letter complaining that Johnny Marr can't stop talking about him. I don't know if that's true or not, but you know, he seems to be in the popular culture because, you know, he's a vegan. I don't have any issues with that, but he seems to have made some statements about immigration and seems to have fallen to the right. I don't know if he's honestly being serious, or he's just putting us on, or if that's what he feels. And honestly, I think I can separate the music from his political views if I even know what they are, and I sort of know what they are. But I think any hopes of a Smiths reunion are long gone. That's kind of sad in a way. I hope that would happen, but I just can't see it happening since Marr and Morrissey seem to not like each other anymore. So yeah, this is a pretty good later Morrissey record. I have the later ones as well. This is from 2009. I think it's still available, and I think it's still in press, so I think you can get it. It's not bad. I don't understand the art, and I don't understand the cover. Morrissey, as far as I know, doesn't have children. I don't understand what's going on with the baby's forehead there. It's a strange cover. I would never have even expected a cover such as this on a Morrissey record. I find it really odd. So, I guess that's it. That's 4 records. I don't know why I chose 4 randomly selected. I guess this is kind of an experiment. I'll see how it goes. And once again, thank you for watching. And I'm happy to read your comments. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.